Bishamon had to show us why she is the supreme war god in episode 11 of Noragami season 2 because we see her going in against Izanami. And we see now that when the episode starts off, we have Bishamon along with her tiger, and then of course we have Kazuma there, and we see now that for the first time Iha, is being used, and we see now that she takes the form of a suit of armor when she goes into her regalia form. And that right there was interesting. And of course, it's definitely nice to see, Iha's character now change. She is no longer that jealous, bitter girl who was like harming her master. She is now being useful. And we even see her, being a bit bashful because obviously this right here is Bishamon, first time using her in probably a while. But we still now heading to the event because obviously that right there is like a huge sign of danger. But then we have, Yukine and Hiyori. Of course, we saw last week how they could not get to the underworld, but we see now that they saw that event as well. And so everybody was like going toward it, but then we see out of nowhere Hiyori just froze. And at first I was like wondering, what was going on because I thought maybe, I thought it was possible that maybe it was that event, because we all know that event is like a mass of like phantoms, all together. And I thought that right there, could have been happening to her, like maybe some invisible phantom will like, either attack her or she saw something like that. But we see now that Kuga, who I thought personally had died, I thought we were like done with this guy, but no, Kuga is back, and we see now that obviously he became a Nora. He was like always a Nora from the start because when Kazuma had tried to actually stop him, doing his little arc, we all know that he was a Nora back then because his name did not work. And so now we see that this guy, he wants a new right hand because, because Yato had cut his off before Bishamon had threw him out. And so right now we have Yukine who comes back luckily and actually saves Hiyori, and we see now, both of them are using their borderlines, and we see now, both of them were like pretty equal. And of course now you have Yukine trying to use that restraint method against Kuga, but of course he's a Nora, and of course Yukine does not know his other names, and so right now, Kuga was like, you are now experiencing, the true fear of Noras, because, they're all powerful, and the reason why, gods hate them is because they have like these multiple names and stuff like that. And even though Kuga was right, it was definitely kind of weird how Yukine could not overpower him, even though they were like both, even though he was a blessed vessel. And so right now we learned that the reason why you can, seem rather weak, or at least compared to Kuga, when they were like both equal, is because he did not have that much faith in Yato, or he thought that, Yato did not have that much faith in Yukine, because Yukine did not know a hero's real name. And of course, Yato did pick her over him to go to the underworld. And so of course now, Yukine, like loyalty, or I guess faith in Yato and him, it was definitely on the low. But thanks to Hiyori words, and that right there was like a very sweet moment, we have Yukine finally getting his resolve back, and we see him now overpowering Kuga, and it was like so nice to see him. It was so nice to see Yukine send this guy flying, and of course when like fell to the river, I was like dying laughing. But I do wonder if this right here is the end of Kuga, or maybe he will come back. But now we have Yato, who like still in the underworld, and even though his situation was not looking that good, he was like rather happy because he saved Ebisu because he wanted to, not because his father, asked him to. But we see now that like he was like pulled down even further, and now we have Izanami, pulling him back. But we see now that when she did that, all she got was this sandal, and now we see her going even crazy, and we see her true form finally, which is like just the form of like a purple skeleton. And so right now with her hair going everywhere to look for Yato, we have Yato, who was like very injured because, obviously he had to like mess up his foot to actually get untangled and to, of course, get out of his sandal as well. And so right now he was thinking about Hiro, back when Yato was a kid. And these two seem like siblings, but for some reason, well, obviously, these regalias, they don't age, so obviously that was did not last, very long. But we learned now that, nothing really ever bothered or ever got to Hiro. She was always just like this like emotionless doll, and like even now, she was like she was not showing any real sign of fear. And we even see her, helping Yato by ripping, part of her kimono and like wrapping it around his foot. And so like he was thinking maybe it would not be so bad to like stay with Hiro, but of course, that right there can happen because he must go back to Hiyori and to Yukine. But we see now that Izanami found him, her hair was like wrapped all around him, and this time he could not escape, and now she actually got him again. And so apparently she still want to have this tea party, which is like kind of weird, but we see her almost like obsessing with Yato. But now going back to Bishamon, we see now that they found Ebisu as he left the vent, but this guy was clearly messed up. And we see now that Hiyori and Yukine have found them all as well. And so right now, right now we have Ebisu, coming back and forth between consciousness, and of course we have him telling him about what Yato did. And so right now, Bishamon was like wondering what was like Yato even doing here in the first place. And we also got another flashback of Ebisu when he was growing up, but this time, we see him now, learning about himself, about his like different names, about Izanami and Izanagi, who apparently his parents. And so we see now that older regalia who we saw with him, all the time, who's like his assistant, we see that he was the one who actually, gave him the name Ebisu, which means drowned corpse. And that right there is definitely, a very morbid name. But we see now that, Ebisu has been questioning who he is for a very long time now. And so right now with that vent, now closing up, we have Ebisu asking Bishamon to like go save Yato because obviously he saved him, and then we have Yukine who actually wanted to go with Bishamon to actually go get Yato back, but then we have Kofuku and her regalia. They now showed up, and we see now that the only way for Yukine to actually go to the underworld, that would be if he became someone else's regalia, which meant that he would have to become a Nora. And we see now that like Bishamon, she would not allow that actually because she would go save Yato. And so we see now that she actually kept her tiger regalia behind. Right now I forgot his name, but he was like going to watch over Ebisu. And right now we have Kofuku who actually opened up a vent. And so we see now that when Bishamon had like jumped down it, she was like very surprised at how Yato and Ebisu were like even able to actually even last like this long down here. And we see now that Izanami, she was actually closing up any kind of exit in the underworld, because even though Kofuku's regalia like held back that vent, it was still closing a lot faster than normal. And so right now, when like Bishamon lands, of course now she has to find Yato, and we see her now land in like some kind of like river or at least where this water flood was like flowing. And so right now Izanami hair was like actually flowing down like this water, and so apparently her hair actually goes back to her, which is like kind of weird, but at least this right here allowed Bishamon to like track her down. And so right now she had Yato in her clutches, obviously, but Bishamon had like came here, to actually save him. And so obviously that right there, leads to like, Izanami going crazy once again because she thought Bishamon, was like interrupting her tea party. And so right now when like these two start fighting, even though Bishamon was like doing no real damage, because even her regalia was like, I could not even destroy the rocks. And so apparently, Izanami, she placed in like this border around everything, because we saw those lines appear, and of course we saw like some kind of symbol behind her, which I'm guessing is where her power is like coming from. But we see now that Ebisu, she was definitely, not getting hurt. We saw her deflecting everything, and she was forcing her hair back as well. And at one point, she was like using her bare hand to actually grab onto her hair and actually yanked Izanami forward. And so at one point, we have Bishamon holding her in her clutches, and all you hear is like the crushing sound. And so obviously that right there was the sound of her crushing, Izanami's skull, because her true form, like I said, the skeleton. And that right there, is a bit lame, because I wanted to see her true form, in like a human form, not just a skeleton. But even so, their fight right now is definitely pretty cool. And so right now, when like Yato, who seemed to be on the verge of like giving up, Bishamon was like, for like the longest time, I hated you, but she always knew the truth. She knew that, Yato saved her twice. He had killed her family, back then for a reason. And he was not the one, responsible for the current massacre that happened, recently this season. But the only way for her to like move on and be stronger, it was for her, to like put all the hatred on him. And even though at the same time that right there might make people hate Bishamon, I definitely, kind of respect her, because she finally like admitted her faults. And we even see her fighting as hard just to bring Yato back to Hiyori and Yukine. And we even see now that when Yato learned that they're waiting for him, that right there also gives him like the motivation to actually, fight once again, and not just take this, laying down. And so right now we see like Kofuku and her regalia, once again, they had made like another event, but this time it was like closing even faster. So right now, even if Bishamon can get Yato away from Izanami, they would still have no way to get out. And so it was then that Ebisu finally came back, from like losing consciousness, and we see now that he recognized Hiyori. And so apparently he now has a way to like save Yato and bring him back, but at the same time he has to use Hiyori for this. And so I do wonder what in the world is he planning, because I do hope that like, Ebisu would not try to like screw Hiyori over just to save Yato, because of course we all know that, Hiyori is definitely very important to Yato. But overall, this episode, it was definitely pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it. Izanami versus Bishamon, that fight right there, it's definitely kind of hype, even though Bishamon's doing, no real damage. I do wonder though, if Bishamon can be, like the first god or person in history to actually hurt Izanami to like some real, serious extent. But as always, let me know what you guys thought. Don't forget to like and subscribe, but it really helps me out. But as always, you guys take it easy. I will see you all next time.